Warmth, number one, you can last as little as 3 hours. 2, water. You need water within at least 3 days, and food, you can go about 3 weeks. The fourth and fifth would be first aid and medical. And sanitation and hygiene. Again, depending on the conditions, depending on your health, depending on the threat. If it's if it's an earthquake, someone gets hurt. If they're bleeding, the most important thing you need to worry about is first aid, getting them some medical attention. If there's a sickness, a biological threat, you want to make sure that everything is very sanitized, that your hygiene is really good. Usually, a lot of times in natural disasters, more people can die in the aftermath from lack of sanitation and hygiene and sickness than in the actual disaster itself. So it's very important. These 5 right here are our essential needs. These are the things that we absolutely need to survive. These other things, light communication, energy, tools, maps, bags, those are all things that are beneficial to our situation, can help us improve our situation, but they're not essential to our survival. So there's 2 different types of emergencies that we really need to be worried about. 2 different kind of categories of emergencies. One is, I mentioned both of these earlier, is shelter in place emergencies. These are the type of emergencies that require you, or at least allow you, to stay where you are, kind of hunker down, and try and pull through it. The second type is grab-and-go emergencies. As the name aptly states, these are the type of emergencies that necessitate you to grab your stuff and go. You want to get out of there. Things like a fire, a wildfire, you need to leave. Maybe if you live along coastal areas, there's a hurricane, they're requiring evacuation, you need to evacuate. It's very important to realize that there's really 2 types of disasters that you need to prepare for, because even though your needs are the same in these 2 types of disasters, no matter if you're staying where you are or going, you still need water, you still need shelter, you still need medical and sanitization, you still need food, but you may need different types of things. So we're going to talk about some specific disasters that you might need to prepare for. What are some types of disasters that you might need to prepare for? Earthquakes, fires, floods, tornadoes. Storms. These are all kind of natural disasters. We also have man-made disasters. The dollar not be worth anything. A financial crisis, that's a very, very real possibility, and we've seen, some financial crisis lately that's affected all of our lives. Financial crisis, maybe you're in an auto breakdown can be a crisis depending on your situation. Going to have a medical emergency. Could have a biological threat, which is very real and unpredictable, as we've seen recently by the swine flu. Could have a nuclear disaster, or simple power outage. As you can see, there's lots of different things that we need to prepare for, and lots of different situations. The likelihood that one of those things is going to happen to you in your lifetime is really very great, to you or to someone you love, or to your neighbors, friends, family. Your preparedness is really only as good as your communities, your neighbors. If you're prepared and the rest of your neighbors aren't, you probably end up spreading it around. So the first worksheet that we gave you in your packet is the Ready Plan. This is a master checklist, schedule, and budget. This is the sheet that allows you to take all the information for the other sheets, transfer it here. It gives you scheduled completion dates for each of the different steps in the Ready Steps program, and a budget as well that you'll be able to transfer from the other sheets. So you can make some goals on when you're going to be 100% really ready and how much it's going to cost you. So I think it's something that's really important to realize, is that readiness costs a lot, can cost a lot, but your life and the life of your family is definitely worth it. So we'll talk about that later. The next sheet is the emergency information cards. This is probably the first thing that doesn't cost anything that you can do in your emergency plan. Sit down together with your family, fill out one of these little cards for each of your family. You can fold them in half, put them in your wallet, keep them on yourself and each individual family member at all time. Has emergency contact name and phone, and out-of-town contact name and phone, which is very important in some sort of emergency where maybe you need to leave and you need to contact someone out of town who's not affected by the emergency, to let them know where you are, what your plan is, and an emergency meeting place for you and your family, as well as some space to put any other information you may like. This can be a very handy tool and could very well save someone's life. Moving on to the step number 2 is shelter-in-place supplies. The reason that is step number 2, a lot of times you'll hear about 72-hour kits. It's something that's easy, it's relatively cheap, but the likelihood that a shelter-in-place emergency will happen is much more likely that a grab-and-go emergency is going to happen. It's much more likely you're going to have to stay in your home, use the emergency supplies you have, than you are to leave your house and leave everything behind. Those type of emergencies are a lot less likely to occur. So you'd be better off putting your resources into shelter-in-place supplies, because if you have a 72-hour kit in your garage with 72 hours worth of food and you lose your job, the MREs may last you for 3 days, but after that you're going to be pretty hungry. And you could have bought quite a bit more shelter-in-place food than MREs for the same amount of resources. So first things first, we do shelter-in-place supplies. Again, we talked about our essential needs. We have our warmth and shelter, sanitation, hygiene, first aid, and medical. We left off water storage and food and nutrition on this because those require a little more detailed attention. We have separate sections for those. Just quickly going down the listings that you might need in shelter-in-place supplies. A safe heating option. Last winter there was major power outages in the north, in the central United States, and people were without power for 2 to 3 weeks. They didn't have heat. Maybe they had a generator, but they didn't have fuel on hand. There's lines in Home Depot to get the generators. The gas stations are out of gas. Things can happen where you need, especially you need heat in the middle of the winter, depending on where you are. Heating fuel, sealed room supplies. If in the event of a biological threat, it may be required for you to kind of seal the room, keep any exterior contaminants out of your home. Sanitation, hygiene, standard supplies, hand and facial hygiene, dental hygiene, feminine hygiene, vision care, toiletries, first aid and medical, first aid kit, CPR kit, pain relief, prescription medication. You can put the details of what exactly you want to get and the budget. I can't tell you exactly what you need. It's your family, it's your situation. You know what you need better than I do. This is really just kind of a guideline. Again, it's the tools to help you implement your plan.